Alright, here's a quick review on scientific notation. Alright, the easier steps or the easy operations with scientific notation are multiplication and division. Alright, and I'll show you why, and you'll see why when we do some of these examples, but it's simple. Here it explains it in words. You multiply the coefficients, so you multiply the numbers in the front here, and you add the exponents on the matching 10 bases. So multiply the numbers, add the exponents. Pretty simple. And then division is the opposite. You divide the coefficients and subtract the exponents on the matching 10 bases. So what they did here in the example is they divided those two numbers, got 3.02, subtract 8 minus 5, and it's 10 to the third power. So if they want the answer in scientific notation, right, you leave it like this. If they want it as a regular answer, you have to expand this by moving the decimal 3 times to the right. 1, 2, 3. So that'll be 3020 as an actual value. Alright, so with adding and subtracting, right, you cannot add unless these exponents match. So in this case, in many cases, right, you're going to have to move the decimal 1 time to the left so we can raise that exponent 1 unit. And now the exponents match. So once they moved it, now you can add the numbers in the front, which give you 6.334. And the 10 to the third does not change, because when you add or subtract, exponents don't change. Right, so before we go to these examples, right, make sure you remember the format here. All these answers are in the correct format. One number to the left of the decimal times 10 with an exponent, right? That's the correct format. If your answer is 45.6 times 10 to the 5th, you cannot leave your answer like that. You have to move the decimal once to the left and raise that up to a 6. And that would be the correct format. So make sure you always move your decimal at the end if you have 2 units on the left of the decimal. Alright, so let's start with these examples here. The first one is division. So all you got to do first is divide the numbers. 8.4 divided by 1.5. That gives you 5.6 times 10 to the 5th power. Because when you divide, the rule is subtract the exponents. And that's it. That's the answer. As long as you have one number to the left of the decimal, it's the correct format. Alright, so the same concept next to it. 1.4 divided by 3.5. That gives you 0.4. Times 10 to the negative 3. Because when you subtract 5 minus 8, you get a negative answer. Now that's not the correct format because there's a 0. You have to have one number to the left of the decimal, so you have to move to the right 1 unit, which leaves you at 4. And now if you move to the right 1 unit, that goes down in value, so it becomes negative 4. And this would be the correct format. So remember, when you're fixing your decimal, you move to the left, you're raising it up, and if you move to the right, you're raising the exponent on the 10 down. Alright, now here's some word prompts that you have to know are division, because they're not going to tell you division. On these two, you got the symbol in between that says division. But here, if it says how many more times more populated, the word times is important, then it's division automatically. So you just divide your bigger value by your smaller value, and then fix your answer at the end if it needs fixing. So Earth has a population of 8 times 10 to the 9th. That's the bigger value. And you're dividing that by Florida's population. So divide your numbers. 8 divided by 2 gives you 4 times 10 to the 2nd power when you subtract your exponents. Now they want the answer as a whole number, so we need to expand this by moving the decimal twice, and it gives 400. Alright, let's do this last one. So here Jacksonville has a population of 9 times 10 to the 5th power. Florida has a population of 2 times 10 to the 7th. So we're going to divide 2 times 10 to the 7th, the bigger value, by the city of Jacksonville. So the first thing you do is divide your numbers. 2 divided by 9, 0.222 times 10 to the 2nd power. Now, to expand that, you move the decimal twice, so it gives you 22.2, but it says to round to the nearest whole number, so you leave it as 22. Alright, let's go to this last page here. This is adding and subtracting. So these can get a little more complicated. Let's see how they work out. So over here it says the distance between Earth and Mars is this value, and the distance between Earth and Venus is this value. So what is the difference of these two distances? So it's distance, so your answer can't be negative. Make sure you remember that. And you're just subtracting your values. So let's subtract 1.3725 times 10 to the 8th power. Subtract from that, you're going to subtract the 8.701 times 10 to the 7th. So now because these exponents don't match, you can't subtract yet. So we're going to move it once to the left, which gives you 0.8701 times 10 to the 8th. Now you can subtract these values. So you do 1.3725 minus 0.8701, and it gives you 0.5024 times 10 to the 8th power, because when you add or subtract, exponents will change. Now that's not the correct format. We need to move it once to the right so we can have 1 unit to the left of the decimal. If you move it 1 unit to the right, that number is going to go down 1. So you're going to have 5.024 times 10 to the 7th. Feel free to pause this video, try the next questions, but I'm going to just go ahead and do it. The distance between Earth and Jupiter is about 5.145 times 10 to the 8th power. And the distance between Earth and Neptune is 2.703 times 10 to the 9th power. So you're going to subtract because they want to know what the difference is again. Again, big number minus a smaller, because you're not going to have negative values in terms of distance. Alright, so we're going to subtract your two values here. 2.703 times 10 to the 9th minus 5.145 times 10 to the 8th. Now those don't match, so we're going to move it once to the left so we can make that a 9. And now we can subtract the values. 2.703 minus 0.5145. That gives you 2.1885 times 10 to the 9th power. Now if they want to round it to the 100th place or the 1000th place, which is usually the case, you stop it at 3 decimals. If it's 100th, you stop it at 2. Alright, hopefully this helps. Try this question on your own. See how it goes. Just don't forget, expand the answer unless they give it to you in this format because they want it in scientific notation. Alright?